Hello, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. You know, so many people have reached out to me at DotCom Magazine and they say, Jake, listen, we love it when you bring in the worldwide leaders in their respective spaces. And so many people reached out and they said, Jake, we have an idea, but we're not exactly sure how to get it to market. We're not exactly sure how to develop it, how to source it, how to really manufacture it. You know, we have this great idea. We don't want to tell anybody about it but you, Andy, but how do we take it from point A to Z? So I get so many of these calls and so many of these emails. I decided to reach out to really one of America's leading experts, Mr. Rex Mong. And Rex is the founder and CEO of iinventt. And he's a real product development expert. And he has a creative approach to the way in which he develops and sources and manufactures ideas, your ideas that you can bring to life through Rex's company. It's a great business. I'm so excited. Rex, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you for having me, Andy.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. I have so many questions. Let's get right to it. But as you know, we've become famous for the 30,000 feet question. So let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Tell us about iinventt, and then we're going to get into it.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. So we are primarily a product lifecycle development company. So we help to take product concepts from start to finish, and really we can go at any point in the life cycle. So some companies will have, assets already created, designs, and they just kind of want us to develop and engineer it, cost it, all that kind of stuff. So we can start from any of that process in the cycle. We found that a lot of people do come to us typically in the beginning where they have a concept, and I would say a good chunk is either they don't have designs yet or they already do. And then we just kind of take it from there. We work together. It's either to get better costing or some things couldn't be done from prior suppliers that they had, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially that is what our company does. So if anyone has like a product idea, or if they have, something they want us to develop, et cetera, we come in and we kind of help and we take it from start to finish or wherever they need us to go.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Rex. Of course, everybody has an idea. And what I like to say is 1,000 people wake up with an idea, and by lunchtime, 999 of them have forgotten the idea, but that one person still has that idea, and it's a great idea.
Right.
What does that first phone call sound like when someone calls iinventt? I mean, how does that conversation sound? How do you start formulating a plan from the jump start?
That's a good question. Usually what it sounds like is they're really excited. So there's kind of like a little bit of optimism, skepticism, concern, unsure, excitement, all kind of bottled up together. So usually the first call starts out with, hey, like you said, I have this idea. Can you help me? So we walk through it, we talk through it, and we try to tell them off the bat what can be done, what can't be done. But usually we work really hard to make sure that we can try to, achieve what they want to the best within cost and feasibility. And at the same time, if we can't, then we try to tell them up front. But most of the time, we work really hard to try to make it happen.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Now, there's so many different types of products, right? So there's products for consumers, products for manufacturing, B2B, B2C. Just to sort of touch on it, technology products. What products do you have a specialty in, or is it your specialty is any product, just taking it through the sort of process to get it out into the world?
Yeah, great question. My background started actually in toys and collectibles. I was a toy industry person for a long time, baby products too. So we were making stuff for like Colecraft, all the way up to MGA's products, MGA Entertainment, to Razer, and most recently Disney. So we do a lot of toys and collectibles, that has been our expertise. But we found that as we've gotten requests for other types of products, and we actually took the time to engineer them and work with our engineers and factories and who have, really the expertise in these areas, we found that we were able to develop a large chunk of some of these products. And some of these, other than toys, are even as complicated as power tools. We're working on like a power tool company confidential, of course, but they're working on a power tool that at the time, I think they're like maybe a fifth or sixth generation American company, now trying to revolutionize or revitalize the industry from their brand, which they were the first movers at the time. So it's really exciting. We found that a lot of products, even though they on the outside look different, of course, they have different functions. I mean, you and I know toys are different from a hardware tool. The engineering of it is not too far off, and I don't want to discredit, power tool lovers out there. There are, of course, a lot more engineering versus a toy, but when you really dig deep into it, you really find that you can engineer some of these things, and there's a lot of similarities between products of, material properties and all that stuff.
I love it, Rex. Of course, you have so many of these wonderful products on your website. Everybody loves what you do. Some of the brands you've worked with are absolutely world-class. Now, Rex, let's talk about it. So somebody has an idea, they come to you. How does it work? I mean, because maybe they've never done it before. Do they need a patent? Do they not need a patent? Do you advise them whether they need a patent on the design? What's the process so that the idea person, the inventor, I guess, can protect their back as you're going through the development process?
Yeah, really great question. So to your point earlier, a lot of people come with just the original idea. So we try to talk them through, and of course, the product development process can be very harrowing for a lot of people, even people in the industry. It's also very harrowing. So, it's not of course, a very easy process. So what we usually try to tell them ahead of time is, after looking at their idea, we talk them through just some of the basics of what it takes to develop the product. And in terms to your point about protection, we do encourage them to get at least a provisional patent for their idea. Start off that way, develop it, and if it gets to a point, a year later or whatnot, that they have the funds that actually is going somewhere and it is engineering and marketing retail-wise feasible for them to sell, then we can go to the next step of talking about a real patent application. What we try to do is coming from a background where we've been so trained and ingrained to maintain costs and to make sure that we don't have make people overspend on the money that they have, because some of these people, a lot of these people are hardworking people, and every dollar is important, and we tried not to look at them as a dollar sign, but as someone who has an inspirational idea. And so at that point, we try to kind of take it step by step to make sure that they're both protected and what financially makes sense for them, instead of just dumping it all on them from the get-go.
Yeah, it's such a great approach, Rex. You're known for it. The people at iinventt are doing a great job. So let's break it down. Somebody has an idea. They come to you. They talk to their brother and their sister, their aunt, their uncle. Everybody thinks it's a great idea. But then they come to you. Do you ever say to yourself in your mind, I'm not really 100% sure I love this idea? And if you have that sort of thought process at iinventt, you share that with the potential entrepreneur to let them know sort of where you're standing with this idea concept? Yeah,
good question. So in terms of whether or not an idea is feasible from a sales and retail point of view, we highly encourage them to do that research, because, it's not necessarily, our place to give that opinion, because what if we're wrong and, it actually becomes a big hit? And that has happened. We would not want to rob someone of an opportunity of a lifetime of their idea, because, we all know that their idea is their baby, and it is their baby, and every idea is unique. And so in that sense, we highly encourage them to go do that market research to find if they're willing to take this commitment. And to your point about the process, someone calls, they have an idea. They say, hey, idea is so-and-so. I would ask, do you have any, I'll go down the development life cycle and I would ask them, hey, do you guys have a design? That would be the first one. If they don't, we can design it for them. And we can go through the many steps. After that, if they decide they still want to continue, we go into the development phase, which we send it to our engineers. And then we start going over dimensions. We start going to size, to cost feasibility. After all that is wrapped, then we start to create a prototype. Once the prototype is done, and actually I do have a sample here to show you later if you want to see it. Once the prototype is finished, then comes one of the larger milestones, which is to actually open a production tool. And as you may already know, a lot of these production tools are not cheap. I mean, they're for, of course, mass market runs, but they can run, depending on your product, anywhere as low as 5 digits to as high as 6 figures easily. And it just depends on what your product is. That's usually the hump that most people have to cross or jump over. Once they jump over that, then we go, of course, into the post-tooling, the final engineering, ready for shipping, sales, agreements, all that kind of stuff. So that's typically the process from development all the way to shipment. Usually the clients will already have their own shipping and distribution channels and setup already there. So we usually just ship it from whatever manufacturing country to them. Sometimes they'll ask us for more, but that's usually the process.
Yeah, it's a fascinating process. It works for you. It's worked for so many companies that have reached out to you. And you mentioned something that it's not really your place to let them know whether it's going to work in the retail market. And that makes sense because no matter how much expertise one has, they miss on products. I mean, we think about Shark Tank, right? We've interviewed a number of people that have been on Shark Tank, affiliated with Shark Tank. And one of the big misses, of course, was that Ring video doorbell that the Sharks missed on. And they didn't think it was really going to go anywhere. And here it is, bought by Amazon. And you never, ever know until you put your feet on the ground and you figure it out. Now, Rex, you mentioned a prototype. We'd love to take a look at that on the show. You mentioned you have one. Why don't you show it to us and tell us what it's about?
Yeah. So we kind of, as product people, designers, and people who just make stuff, we get really excited about different things, It's amazing that in my many years of working in the industry, that I still see the look of joy on faces of each designer when they design something. And it just kind of tells you that, at least for me personally, that sometimes when you get so caught up in just churning out stuff that you kind of forget the reason why we do it. So let me give an example. I don't know if I'm going to work this sharing screen right. So I'll just talk through it. So, I'm a avid LA Dodgers baseball fan. And, we wanted to make something kind of like an homage to Clayton Kershaw, And so, we took images that we found online of just his various poses while he's pitching and just doing what he does best. And going through the process, we developed or just kind of prototyped just for ourselves a sculpt of his face for a new type of figurine. We haven't actually really pitched or sold it heavily. We just kind of did it internally by ourselves. But here you can see, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see his face?
Wow, it's so good.
Yeah, so here's my hand side so you can kind of get a gauge of it. You can see the amount of detail. So this is kind of the stuff that we do. It's not just that. There's other things I would love to show you, but they're in shipping and they're not marketed or released yet. So, we can't announce, but kind of to what you're saying too, like there's a few things coming out that we've done for AMC, Walking Dead. There's one recently coming out that we're doing and just a whole lot of stuff. So we're really excited.
Yeah, I love it so much. And of course, the action figures, the superheroes, the sports stars. I mean, everybody loves to collect those figurines of their favorite star. If I'm a young man or a young child or a young woman, of course, I want to collect whatever I can collect because it's so fun to have those figurines around, especially if I have a passion for it. What are some of the superheroes, Rex, that you and your team at iinventt really, really love? Are there certain superheroes that you just love to sort of look at and see what the creative looks like in your minds?
Oh yeah. I mean, wow, that's the list is endless. I mean, people love them all. They love Star Wars. Some people are avid Star Wars fans. Some people are, Team Marvel. Some people are Team DC. Recently too, Dune came out, and some people are really into, Dune. They read the books, they've been following it. Got super excited when the movie came out recently, the remake. They love them all. I think even actually also too, just jogged my memory, gaming statues. We've done, in my previous career, I've done some work with gaming studios. And, of course, gaming is a huge, huge industry and huge market. And so there's, for a long time, there's been a lot of interest in collecting not just action figures, but those collectible statues as well. I mean, you've seen, I'll give an example, like, Far Cry 6 has come out, and, the main character was on, Breaking Bad. And there's a statue of him, and the company did amazing work. So, there's just so large of a plethora of stuff. But yeah, you're right. Action figures, collectibles, there's so many fan favorites. It's hard to even keep up.
It's incredible. It's such a burgeoning business. Everybody loves it. And this gaming space is a huge business. We don't even know how many zeros at the end of one. Could be 100 billion, could be moving toward $1 trillion business. It's definitely a mega trend. Now, Rex, when we think about a great idea, okay, an idea is nothing unless it gets produced. There's so many ideas out there that just fall on the floor. Isn't it true that people who are idea people, they need people like you, experienced project and business managers, to help nurture those ideas along? There's some idea people, there's some people that can get it done, there's a few people that can do them both, but at most times, the great idea people need people like you to pull it off, right?
Excellent question. Actually, this is kind of one of the heart of not just my business, but also in development. Yes. So the short answer is yes. There's a great marriage between, people who have the ideas and concepts and people like us who, have to get it through fruition. And I found throughout my career that, it's kind of, I'm not sure if this is correct, like left brain, right brainish, but kind of like illustrating the difference of thinking between the two, and both so like just equally important. I've worked with so many very talented people in the industry, designers and whatnot. And some of the things that they come up with is just amazing. Like I've never would even thought of it. And then when they actually put it on paper, or I guess these days on tablet, you just see the coming to life of the idea. And so, but the one thing that they need, and to your point, a lot of assistance from my side is to kind of get it to become real life feasible for sales. And as you know, everything is a business. So, everyone has, the margins or costs to maintain and whatnot to make it all, marketable and feasible. So, a lot of them who come to us with the ideas, we try to work with them to make sure that their ideas don't get too watered down. And the unfortunate reality is, to some degree, it has to get watered down to make it sellable, because of course people won't only pay a certain price for certain things. But we try not to water it down just from a strictly dollar point of view. We try to find ways and work with them in the middle to, maintain a lot of what the original idea, but then to filter out things that from a marketing point of view or sale point of view doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's so interesting. They need that expertise to help them get on track. And let's talk about the inventor's mindset. There's inventors out there, and they're people that just kind of tinker with things all the time, and they can't get their hands off of things, and they have their screwdrivers and they have their, power tools and everything else, electronics. They started young maybe, and they just love it so much. What's the inventor's mindset? Are they the people that you work with that invent an idea or they invent a product? what's their mindset all about? Are they focused in, or are they a little scattered? Is there some generalization you can make about that? Because that's something that one of the viewers of the show wanted me to ask you.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a little bit of both. It starts off very scattered, and to be quite honest, because there's so much going in their minds and they're so excited, they kind of do an off the cuff, like, hey, this is my idea, and they just talk to someone right away. Sometimes you'll get people who have sat down and methodically thought it through, but a lot of times it's just pure excitement driving this, and totally understandable. There's a lot of innovative people out there. I'm sure in that they want to bring this idea out and see it to fruition. But yeah, normally it's very excited and kind of, I don't want to say all over the place, but just spurting ideas and not really filtered down yet. But after a certain point that happens, it normally does. So it's a very common emotion and process and thought that most inventors have that I've found. It's just sheer and raw excitement for their product.
Yeah, I love it, Rex, so much. And of course, you have a passion for storytelling. I mean, you love to tell the story. Your clients reach out to you and you help formulate that story for them. I know you've got a great background, a great experience. I think, your parents were immigrants, born in the United States. You were born in the United States, I believe, with a brother or a sister. But where does this come from, this idea that you love to tell a story?
Oh man, to be honest, it came from my career. Coming especially from Disney, they're all about storytelling. And, when we get designs or concepts, whether it's from the studios or from our, cross-functional partners, designers, whatnot, they've done their due diligence parts in terms of the initial design and concepting and many, many months of planning. When we get the design in our hands to start developing, it's not only, of course, drawn out, but the whole concept of it was through storytelling. How does this product tell a story? How does this design tell a story? How do we convey a positive message through our characters and our stories to people that reflects, our culture and our ideas? And so that's a lot of what influenced me in my storytelling. And to be quite honest, not to discredit other companies at all, they had their own version, but no company ingrained it so heavily in their culture more than Disney did. And I guess for me, that was my most recent influence. And it really helped me to understand the power and the influence in such a positive way of positive storytelling, especially through product. I mean, you don't really see that as much or hear about that as often. But when you see, how the packaging is designed, how, like, just say for example, the dolls for Frozen or any of the princesses, the fashion dolls, you can see how they're posed and they don't, they're not just, straight rigor mortis or whatever. It's because they want to convey a story from the movie or from whatever lore that they had. And it really speaks to people, we find, and it really creates that connection between people and product. And, we just, products, of course, are functional, but they're not always, right? They serve other purposes too that you don't always think about. And we want to make sure that we, capture as much of that as possible, especially for our clients.
Yeah, Rex, it's so great. Of course, that psychological connection between people and product is very fascinating. It's one that you lead the way with. During your career, I mean, you've worked with so many huge brands, Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, Pixar, Razor, Chick-fil-A, I mean, Sony, so many different ones. When we think about it, and we think about the younger entrepreneurs now watching the show, Rex, they're saying to themselves, I'm listening to Rex here. He's got a fascinating journey, but here I am with my startup business. Maybe I'm hitting a pothole in the road right now. Maybe I'm hitting a wall. Maybe I freeze in the frame. Maybe I don't know what to do. I'm hoping, based on your experience working with all these great brands and doing so well with iinventt right now, that you could tell the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, Rex, what it takes to get through a tough time, what it takes to get through a pothole as a fellow entrepreneur and come out the other side feeling much better that you've gotten through it in a powerful way.
Yeah, that's huge. I guess the first advice I would say is to, not give up. And of course, that's, very cliche, but with product, as we were saying, it's such a large process that I would say that, of course, the first thing that comes, people always have the idea first before they think about the process. And, through that, after you've had the idea, think and do your research, of course, through what the process is. Talk to people like me or similar people that can at least kind of walk you through and some of the key things that you should at least prepare for. I would say, other than the design or the concept of the idea, check for marketing feasibility. That's the number one. And then number two would be check your budget. Talk to somebody and keep those goals managed and realistic. There's a big difference between selling, on your own website versus if you want to sell to like a retailer, a large retailer. There's a lot more requirements and expectations and money that's expected to do so. And of course, the rewards are larger. Something that you do want to really want to take on, whether it's, you're selling it, locally or, smaller scale, I guess, versus a larger scale, know what you're getting into. I found that a lot of inventors, when they come, the idea is great. And actually, there are quite a few that's great for retail market, for mass market. But what they found that they might have either underestimated or overestimated their budget. And so a lot of times they've had to stop in the process. Now, seeing that that's happened, there is something, we can't mention yet that we're working on to try to address this so that it would kind of take away this budgeting issue for an everyday inventor. Because that's usually what happens is money is usually what becomes the roadblock because of these high costs of just naturally developing things. So there is something that we'll be working on sometime in the future to roll something out to kind of support everyone at a very affordable cost.
I love it. I can't wait when you roll it out. We want to bring you back on the show. That's so exciting. And of course, Rex, you do so much. You can develop anything, sneakers or backpacks, tents, hardwares, puzzles, journals, those highly detailed statues like the one that you showed, gaming statues, dolls, plush, pets, everything. You're the guy. This is awesome. So if someone has an idea, reach out to Rex, reach out to the people at iinventt. They'll take you down the path. They'll help you with the development. They'll help you figure out what you've got, how to get it to market. They're going to tell that great story. Rex has a passion for that, using all of his background and experience. This has been a great interview. I'm going to bring you back on the show. I know you've got big things planned for people who are idea people and the inventors of the world, and we're going to bring you back on. I know you're in your phase of putting that together now. So once that gets released, I'd love to be the first to release that for you and sort of make that a big flash news report, because I know there's going to be so many people that want to hear about it. Rex, this has been a great interview. There's so much to unpack. We're going to bring you back on the show again. Congratulations on what you're doing at iinventt. It's so awesome. You really are a standout with people who really need help with their ideas. So Rex, thanks so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Andy. You've been great. Thanks for having me on.